and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim, and with me as always is...
Mark.
Mark, how are you today?
Oh, I am just absolutely delightful, Jim. How are you?
You're never delightful, so what's wrong with you?
I told you I was feeling sick.
I know. So, Mark, we have somebody very special with us today. Do you want to introduce our guest?
We have Mr. Anthony Cousins, filmmaker extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, it was going to be almost like a joke, but it wasn't. I was going to say, congratulations, Anthony, on Frogman being like the #1 movie on Screenbox. I was going to say, as soon as I clicked in, it was on the Splash page, but
Yep.
Frog Splash.
Usually he makes up something a lot more grand for people, but he's very muted today. I don't know what
I am. I told
Well,
you. I'm not
horrible pun or not, thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Mark and I actually have actively avoided speaking about Frogman because we both watched it for the first time. And we would not discuss it with each other until we got to talk to you.
Ooh, fun.
So
Okay.
This will be interesting. I'm curious to see what Mark thinks.
So,
Mark, you want to start?
Yeah, well, okay. So Jim just sent me a text with emojis with all thumbs down. So I don't know what that means.
Did I?
So, okay, found footage, right? Found footage is a subgenre which a lot of people have a lot of problems with. I don't. I really enjoy found footage. I really enjoy the almost DIY aspect of it, the guerrilla filming, if you would. And I thought Frogman really took some of the best parts of some of the best found footage movies and kind of put them together. I saw there was what I could see as, hey, obviously Blair Witch Project, but The Taking of Deborah Logan was in there. There was another one, I can't remember now. But anyway, I thought for the first 30 minutes, like a lot of found footage, not a lot happens, but, and this is the key thing in found footage movies, the characters didn't annoy me, right? And right. I think that that's something which, is so prevalent in a lot of these movies where it's just babbling, talking heads and nobody's entertaining. They're all just sitting, talking at each other. But I really like the chemistry with the main three actors.
I agree.
And so we're not going to go all the way through it. We'll just kind of talk through it. Jim?
Yes, Mark.
What is your kind of just overall feelings before we dive into
it? I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm not a found footage fan, to be perfectly honest. It's not my favorite genre. I hated the Blair Witch Project with a passion. I much prefer the second one. But I like the concept behind Frogman. It was a lot of fun. And my big thing is, the older I get, the less I identify with main characters. And your main characters were very relatable. And that made it a lot more enjoyable for me. So I do have a question, though. When you see movies like The Blair Witch and stuff, the script isn't that fleshed out. How fleshed out are your scripts when you were shooting Frogman?
Well, so this is our first time doing found footage. And by the way, it's the funny thing is when we made it, I'm a huge fan of found footage. We didn't try to make a found footage movie for mainstream audiences. It really felt like we were no, if we're going to do found footage, let's, be true to the genre. I knew what I wanted to see, that hadn't been done. I guess, or hadn't been done the way that we wanted to do it. And the character thing, it means so much to me that people, keep bringing up the characters being likable versus usual found footage movies, because that was our #1 goal when writing this movie. Was even in some of my favorite found footage movies, I couldn't tell you who the characters were, and whoever's behind the camera almost always gets lost. And I was let's make these characters that you can connect, whether you like them or not. You can at least understand what they're doing, and understand what they're all about. So that's kind of how we went into writing it. And yeah, it was really I thought, if you don't like found footage, you're probably going to hate this movie because we play into, the long drawn out beginning and some of the tropes. And it's, God, it's crazy to me. And it means so much that there's people that don't generally like found footage that enjoy it. But regarding the script, we wrote it. Well, we wrote like an airtight script, in my opinion.
Okay.
And the intent was to give that to everybody, give that to the actors. I gave it to the actors and I said, read it once and then forget it. And then we're just going to go into this, and every scene will kind of remind each other what the intent behind the scene is, what we have to get to, but like, let's try and keep it loose. And it turned out the actors weren't all that comfortable doing that.
Oh, okay.
So we actually, I was trying to approach it Blair Witchy, and none of them had done found footage before. None of them had done a whole lot of improv. So they felt much more comfortable sticking to the script. So that's something I think a good director doesn't have a directing style that you force everyone to abide by. I think a good director figures out what works for his actors or their actors, and you learn how to work with them to make them comfortable. Because like what you're doing behind the camera is so much easier than what the actors are doing in front of the camera. They're like so much more vulnerable, and like they have to be more comfortable than I have to be comfortable. So I was like, all right, we'll follow the script. And because of that, we ended up shooting some stuff that ended up not working at all. And we shot for 10 days, shot a good chunk of the third act, realized it wasn't working, and had to take a break from shooting and rewrite the whole third act. This is our first time doing found footage, and it was definitely a learning experience.
So I know you did a podcast with my buddy Colby from the Horror House podcast, and I know Taylor called out some Lovecraftian themes that he noticed that I didn't, because I'm not a big Lovecraft fan, but I know you are.
Mm-hmm.
What, I can't even remember the name of the story that you talked about on the podcast that you said influenced it so much.
The Shadow over Innsmouth.
That's it. Thank you very much. What are some of your other influences though? I mean, obviously other than the Blair Witch, what are some of your inspirations for your writing? Because I watched a few of your other shorts and they're a lot of fun. I have a lot. They were a lot of fun. And we'll talk about them. But what are some of your other influences with regards to your directing style and your writing style?
Sure. I mean, Frogman in particular, for the record, I love Book of Shadows. I love that movie. So that, I mean, not so much of an influence on this one, but definitely just like anything that just goes off the rails like that, I am such a fan of. I hate safe sequels. It's so easy to make a safe sequel. Like, figure out what people liked about the first one, replicate it, and you can keep doing that until the diminishing returns start. And then you got to take a break, and then you come back, and then the nostalgia lets you just do it all over again.
Right.
And I love the sequels that are just like, we're just going to do what we think would be cool, and is almost never what anybody wanted. But that's how cult movies are born.
Right. It's the Exorcist 2 syndrome.
Oh, God.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'd say Cronenberg is a huge influence on me. The Fly is my favorite movie of all time. I mean, that's why we have like a body horror transformation in Frogman. My first short, When Sorceress Stirs, was heavily Cronenberg inspired and The Fly inspired. Anytime I can work like Lovecraft cosmic horror or body horror into something, I will, even if it's a little forced.
You have a Lovecraft shirt on.
Look at you.
Oh, what is it? Oh, nice. Yeah.
Is that because of? Oh, okay.
This
hell yeah.
Great God.
The great one himself.
Right. Mark, you have another question?
Okay. So, how long was this? You said you had to rewrite the last third of it. So, how long did it take from, start to finish?
Oh, God.
For the shooting, not the writing, just the shooting schedule.
So we shot for 10 days initially. That was in September 2021. Shot a good chunk of the third act and realized we had to rethink the whole thing. I think we took about 2 weeks off, rewrote it, came back together and shot for another 5 days. And then after that, we premiered the movie in September of last year, 2023, and we shot pickups after that premiere.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think I think Telluride Horror Show in October was our first like, okay, we're done. We're not touching this anymore. We're leaving it alone. Like that. That's when we were officially done. But yeah, it was just like we had to come together to get pickups here and there. I moved out of the state, so I'd have to come back, which kind of slowed things down. And then, the longer you let something like linger, you're going to come up with more ideas. So it was like every time we got back together to shoot a pickup that we had to do,
Right.
we came up with like 3 other new ideas by that point. So it was like, and we're going to shoot this and this and this. Which I hope we learned lessons on that, because the goal for Frogman 2 is just to just shoot it in one go, get it done with, move on with our lives, because it essentially took like 3.5 years, which is just, I don't want to take that long on one movie again.
Part 2,
That's
Frogman, right?
Yeah.
Or Frog People, I guess.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I thought
Frogmen.
I was a big fan of Frogman the Fucking. That when you said
The
it
Fucking.
when you said it on Colby's podcast, I was like, that's pretty great. So
I like that.
how do you feel about that tagline catching on?
Frogman fucks.
Yeah.
That one. I mean, I love it. It's not something that any of us like expected, really.
Right.
Like even when we wrote it, when we shot it in the edit room, none of us were ever like, that's it. That's going to be this movie's identity. That's the
Right.
scene. But I think if you tried to create that moment, you'd probably fail anyways. Like
Absolutely.
that shit just happens naturally, organically. It's kind of out of your control. And that's something we've talked about going into the sequel too. It's like, oh God, like how do we follow up Frogman Fox? Do we have to bring it back somehow? And I'm like, I think if we try, it's gonna be cringy and like like eye rolly, and it's just you just gotta let it happen.
Right. Absolutely, I agree.
Lightning in a bottle.
So Mark, you never
Yes.
answered my question when I asked you, because we refused to talk about Frogman. Do you think Frogman fucks, Mark?
I'm pretty sure, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Jim?
I know it does.
I know.
He does it. He does it Froggy style. There you go. You can take that.
So I know you said, if I'm not mistaken, he's based on an urban legend. Do you have any plans to explore other urban legends?
Yes.
Because I'd really love you to do the skunk ape.
The skunk ape, that'd be fun. I love like that there's untapped like Bigfoot, what would you call them? I don't know, variants out there. Because skunk ape, swamp ape, like the grass man. I feel like you could get weirder. Like we've all seen Bigfoot a million times, and like if you're gonna do a Bigfoot again, like do something strange with it. Have him be green, or like if I did skunk ape, like I'd probably give him like skunk stripes or something. Like let's almost like if you're like playing like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and you wanted to switch the outfits, it'd be like what's Sasquatch's like alt outfits. Yeah, but
you'd have to give him a French accent though.
Ooh, that'd be hot, yeah. Pepe Le Pew style.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say I won't name names, but in Frogman 2, there's definitely plans to introduce some new monsters. It's definitely like the king of the monsters to our like Godzilla, I guess you could say.
So Frogman versus Skunk Ape.
Yeah, there
could
you
happen.
Go. It could happen. I mean, that wand is a formidable weapon.
Right. It's hard to find a cryptid that could stand up against that. No one else has a weapon.
Exactly. Everybody else just has, what they have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, how did the process go about getting picked up at Screenbox and like being their #1 movie? There is that anything that you have any say in, or is it just something that goes out there and just happens?
I mean, so Rotting Press, my producing partners, they kind of handled all that type of stuff, but I was kept in the loop the whole time, at least. And I got to weigh in, and they let me know that Screenbox, reached out and were interested in seeing the movie. And then I was like, well, that's awesome. And then I didn't hear, we released, and I didn't hear anything else for a while. And then they're like, Screenbox is going to be our streaming home. And I was like, fuck yeah. That's so cool. I love what they're doing. I mean, they got the Terrifier movies on there, and they've definitely like they've embraced the new like wave of found footage, you know, with like Horror in
Hmm.
the High Desert and the Outwaters. Um, and yeah, if you haven't seen the Outwaters and the Horror in the High Desert, super cool movies. Um, so yeah, it's been super fun. They've been awesome. I mean, they've like embraced the Frogman Fox tagline, and
Yeah,
I love all the advertising they've been doing for us.
I think that's great. And Screenbox being, I mean, I don't want to say relatively new because they've been around for what, 5, 6 years now, I think. They're really starting to come into their own, in my opinion. Like they're getting a lot of great content so far. Like Here for Blood was the first movie I ever watched on Screenbox, and it was great. And then you get into some of the more Tubi like stuff. But then I saw him pick up Frogman. I was so excited.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's awesome because like, you know, Shutter, you know, we're all, I assume, so thankful for what Shutter's been doing for years now.
Absolutely. Yep.
But you know, to have like, you know, some competition, I think is great for both of them to,
Yeah.
you know, you need that competition to come up to keep your motivation up, you know, and I think both of them have kind of stepped up their game in the last like year, I'd say,
Yeah.
because of that, you know, and I don't think it's like a versus thing. It's like if horror is doing well and if horror streaming is doing well and indie horror is doing well, that's good for literally all of us. You know, this is not a
Absolutely.
competition. This is like we all come up together and succeed together.
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah, I
So,
want to start a streaming horror service that's just for extreme movies. There's nothing
Ooh,
out there like that. Jim,
that'd be cool.
that
Like the like guinea pig movies and stuff
oh
like
yeah,
that.
like
he
all
loves
the
guinea.
hardest hitters.
Yeah. He loves guinea pig movies.
I would
He
love to
loves.
see what advertisers would want to to
Oh, I'm
come on
sure.
that.
Yeah, I'm sure you got some interesting people. Um, Jim,
Yeah. Well, no.
um,
Ask your Frogman questions, Mark, because I want to talk about his shorts that I watched. I'm
so,
not going to
so can
lie.
you talk a little bit, Anthony, about your special effects because they were pretty awesome.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was Ryan Shadley and Becky Ingram, who Becky's kind of new to the team in the past few years, but Ryan I've known and worked with for over a decade now. One of my best friends, and yeah, I mean I wouldn't be here without him because you know when you're coming up, independent filmmaker working at Jamba Juice, you don't really have money to sink into a short. You know, you got
Right.
big ideas but no money, and you know, we were buddies, and he liked the ideas. So the first couple, you know, we kind of did like both losing money on them, um, but you know, kind of wanting to prove ourselves and push ourselves and try new things. And I think that's what we do on every single one. Like when we get into the shorts, like every short we've done has been vastly different than the
Mm-hmm.
last. And then Frogman was like, you know, someone like Ryan, who wants to do special effects and isn't, you know, the biggest fan of like the torture porn type stuff. His dream is to make monsters. So
Mm-hmm.
to do a full, you know, guy in a suit, you know, rubber monster is like a dream come true. So that was super fun for him. It was really interesting because like everything we've done, we've never tried found footage before. So he's the first person I talk to when I do anything. I'm like, okay, we're making a horror movie. The effects are the star. So I need to know what you need and you know if this is doable. Um, and then we talk about like, okay, where are we going to shoot? What's the angle? What's the lighting? Because you don't make any effect that like sells 360, you know, like you know what direction you're going to see it and you make it work for that. Whereas found footage, it was like, dude, I don't know where we're going to shoot. I don't know what the angle is going to be. Like we're going to be looking 360 around this location. Like the camera's going to be like handheld and floating. So you like everything, every effect that we do like has to just be ready to work from every angle. And we got to see Frogman head to toe. So that was very new for us and quite the challenge.
Who
For not
designed?
great.
Did he
Thank
design
you.
the creature completely, or did you have a rough idea of what you wanted it to look like?
I mean, we looked at a lot of frog images, and what's out. You know, Hell Comes to Frogtown. There was like a weird little frog creature on Mandalorian a couple seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things to kind of look at for reference, but my big thing was like we talked about: should he look evil? Should he look sinister? Should he look intelligent? And I'm just kind of a frog enthusiast, even outside of horror. And I mean, the appeal of frogs is that they just are kind of neutral and cute and
Yeah,
bug-eyed. And
right.
I was like, I think we should just do that. Like, so that was kind of the images we landed on was just like, he should just look like a big ass frog. I don't think he should look sinister, like he's plotting or anything like that. He should just be a big frog. So that's what we went with. And from there, he surprised me with the design. I saw it, just in like its latex form before it was painted, kind of like flesh tone. And I was like, yep, that's it. He's got some butt cheeks. He's got a big fat belly. He's got that stupid look on his face. It's perfect.
Just
It
like
was it
Jen.
was pretty perfect. I know, right? It works.
Although y'all didn't get to appreciate the butt cheeks in this
That's-
one, but I promise you they were there. We'll try and feature them
Are we gonna
in the
get butt
sequel.
cheeks? Yeah, we're gonna get butt cheeks in the sequel, huh?
Yeah, way more butt in the sequel.
There's a timeline.
I do know about one request that you got that Colby mentioned because I had heard about it. That I mean, it would be a perfect opportunity. I'm not gonna lie. So, Mark, our buddy Chuck from TikTok did, I guess, reach out to some of Anthony's people and asked to be fucked to death in Frogman 2.
Yeah, I
He
heard
beat
about that.
I mean, so do you already have a rough idea of what you're going to do with Frogman 2, or are you still developing the story for that?
Well, it's not set in stone yet, but yes, there's a first draft. We're working on the second draft right now. I actually, this when we're done with this, I have to read these new pages and have a call with my writer.
Huh?
Um, but we have the whole thing plotted. Like we know what the movie is. It's just kind of like
Mhm.
working out the kinks at this point and some of the finer details.
How, I guess that's probably a terrible way to phrase it, but like in the process, how much time is taken up by writing the script? Like, does it take a year, sometimes a year and a half to get a solid script that you're happy with to move forward with, or is it something that
Well,
happens just organically?
I'd say like everyone's different for
Hmm.
sure. I mean, there's a script that we've been working on for like 2 years at this point because it's just like it's just not working for whatever reason. We can't quite crack it. We know there's something there, and we just remind ourselves like, you know what? If it like it's just not meant to like come into existence right now, or it
Hmm.
would come easier, I think. Um, but this is Frogman 2 is a unique experience because we've never had like a deadline or like a ticking
Hmm.
clock, like there's never been anyone like, okay, we need this by right now. So I think we have taken, months to a year, I'd say, from conceiving to final script. But Frogman 2, we've been throwing ideas around most of the year, but we sat down, I'd say a month and a half ago and like knocked out the outline, like an 11-page outline,
Oh wow!
and then and here we are at draft 2 already. So it's kind of amazing to have a deadline because it's like lit a fire under our ass, and it's made us realize like, oh, you know what, like we could do this for ourselves every time. Like we just
Right?
like we just need
Yeah.
to find that discipline.
It's a
Yeah.
great motivator.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's like a calendar, and you're like, oh shit.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a set team that you always work with, between your shorts and your feature films, or do you have people just coming in and out, depending on what you're looking for?
Yeah, there's a few people that are there on every single one. And I'd say like outside of that group, there's like another layer that's kind of like people that consistently come in and out of projects depending on availability. Um, and then outside of that, I'd say on almost every project we do, there's some new blood on it too. Um, yeah, I mean, like when you start doing these things, it's you kind of build a family, like
Hmm.
you figure out like, what people like match your style,
Yep.
and what you're going for, and also what people you want to be around for 12 hours a day for for as long as it takes to make a movie. Like you really got to click and like vibe together. But it's always fun to bring in new people too, and like some really talented people that live where we shoot these things, have like reached out because of they like the first Frogman, and I'm like, hell yeah, like come join the party on part two. We need more help. It's a bigger
That's
movie.
awesome.
So one thing that not a lot of found footage movies have, but I really like the soundtrack too. Can you reveal who Frog Lord is?
I can't do that.
No, no.
That would be wrong. But he is a real artist. He's based in Bristol, UK, if I remember correctly. He's fucking amazing. His music is so awesome. I was listening to him for years before we made Frogman, and I just reached out on a whim, and I was like, dude, we're making a movie about a frog. Like, I'd love to use some of your tracks. And he was super down. And he even he set up a screening of Frogman at
Oh,
like the
wow.
local IMAX theater in Bristol and did a live performance with his band before the screening. I was like, whoa, dude, that's awesome. So he's been like super supportive of it. I think that's probably the first time in history, I would imagine, that high eight footage has been shown on an IMAX screen. But
Yeah, but that has to be surreal, right? I mean, what was it like when you started seeing all of the positivity coming out about Frogman? What did that? How did that feel? And like how did that impact you?
it was truly surreal. Hard to believe, and just like really, really uh, gratifying and relieving, because like I said, it took 3.5 years, and it was a hard process. There was a lot of falling out of love with this movie, and actually like straight up resenting it and wishing I didn't have to finish it.
Right.
And then, some new idea coming, or like seeing the new edit, and then like having that excitement for it, like re-energized.
Hmm.
Um, but it was difficult to get across the finish line. And when we finally did, it was like, I think we're proud of what we've done here. I can't tell if it's good. I'm not sure if anyone's gonna care or like it. But this is the best version of it that we can make with what we've done. So
Right.
let's call it a day. But I was terrified that nobody was gonna give a shit, and this was gonna be one of those movies that comes out, and maybe a few people talk about for a week and then just disappears into the ether. So, I mean, all I can say is like, we made this movie because we wanted to see it. We thought it would be cool, and that was our guiding star this entire time. Was like, there's
Right.
nobody asking for a Frogman movie, so let's just make the movie we want to make, and
Yep.
hopefully there's other people out there, who have watched every horror movie that's available like we have, and they want something a little bit new. So,
Right.
So do you like read a lot of your reviews, or do you not, or and how does that affect
uh,
the good and the bad?
yeah, I do read a lot of them. I'd say, when they started rolling in, I was reading a lot of them. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and now it's kind of died down. I don't read as many of them as I did at the beginning, but I was definitely curious at the beginning, like what people liked, what people didn't like, the good and the bad. Um, the bad doesn't really affect me, because like 9 times out of 10, even more than that, like the bad reviews are just like, this movie wasn't for me, and that's fine. You
Hmm.
know, like, we didn't make this movie for everybody.
Now,
Um, and there's been so much more positive feedback than negative, that like it it outweighs it for me. Yeah, there's like, I think there's been like two instances out of the thousands of people that have watched the movie and given their 2 cents. There's like two instances of people like coming to me and being like, you fucking suck, you shouldn't be making movies, like you should have this taken down from Apple, it doesn't deserve to be on there. And like, that one hurt a little bit because it
Yeah.
was like not even like directed at the movie, it was directed at me. I was like,
Right.
ooh, damn, dude, I can't imagine ever disliking a movie to the point that I'd find the director, reach out to him, and tell him how much he sucks.
Right.
it,
uh,
in a way,
I
making movies, you always want to get emotions from people. So, like, if somebody spent the time to look you up and send you, well, you've obviously made an impression on them. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's wild, right? I mean, it's like, well, thanks for your $3, I guess, if you
I
rented it.
I I don't know. I might have that conversation with Rob Zombie. I might.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
really not a fan. I like his music. I don't like his movies. So, how is the process different when you're doing a short? Because you've done several short films.
Hmm.
And how does the process differ between doing a short film and a feature film?
Um, it really is kind of similar. Um, it kind of just felt like because I went from shorts to feature. It really just felt like, oh, this is kind of like it's always felt making a short, just for way more shooting days. Um, the one thing that was like really challenging though is like tonal consistency
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the movie, and like leaving room to figure out what that is.
Right.
Because you write a story, you see it in your head, you have an idea of what it is, and then you invite 10, 20 other creatives to collaborate on it with you, the actors, the production designer, like whoever, and they all bring something different to the table, and I think it's a detriment to whatever project you're making and a detriment to their creativity to be like, no, don't do it the way you think would be cool, do it the way like I want it to be done.
Right.
So like it takes on a life of its own, and that's tricky when you're shooting stuff. Again, like we ran into this problem of like shooting stuff for the third act, early on because of scheduling and like you know logistics, and then later on realizing like, oh, that stuff we shot in the third act, now that we've shot most of the first and second act, doesn't really make sense anymore. And that's something I've never had on a short because we're only shooting a short for like 3-4 days.
Right.
So that was tricky.
So you don't abide by the Stanley Kubrick method of filmmaking. Do it 100 times, no? Do it 130 times.
No, I don't. I admire it. I mean, like David Fincher doing like 100 takes of the same thing, and apparently it works out. His movies are incredible, but I can't imagine. I don't know how they do it.
So I have a question. So, you have a thing for long titles, right?
Yeah.
I watched your, and I'm gonna get the title wrong if I say the whole thing. Your ice cream short,
Uh-huh.
and that was so much fun. Like visually, that's beautiful. Like the color palette and all that. Did you come up with all of that yourself? Do you have somebody that helps you pin that down? How did that work?
I came up with that palette, the color palette for that one. I really wanted it to feel slightly otherworldly,
Mm-hmm.
and like really bubbly and cartoony and
Yep.
sort of like early Tim Burton stuff, but like
Yep.
more just like poppy pastels. Like I think I was calling it like bubblegum horror. Um,
Okay, that's fair.
We
and so then I showed that palette. We kind of had like a big meeting. I showed that palette to my cinematographer, production designer, wardrobe, and I was like, here's our colors. Like this is what we got to stick in. And we were like really lucky to find a couple locations that fit our colors exactly, like that ice cream drive-in.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
it reminded me a lot of David Lynch.
Oh
Yeah, I could
wow.
see that.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah, like what's the one called? Okay, Blue Velvet. Sorry,
Blue
Oh yeah.
Velvet. Yeah.
but that kind of like sort of picket fence '60s, colorful, but there's more going on under the surface, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really amazing for a short,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of shorts are just kind of quick, but it looked like a lot of work went into that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's the most time I've ever and effort I've ever spent on a short. Just because like the colors were the most important thing to me. Like really just making that feel like an alternative Earth. David Lynch is a great example. I kind of love those things like Streets of Fire, where it's like
mhm.
out of time, like everything's kind of 50s aesthetic, but we don't really say we're in the 50s.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who did the same special effects artist work on that one as did Frogman?
Yep.
Because
Yep. That was right.
those were pretty amazing. Like I was really impressed by the special effects, especially for 7 minutes. Like they were fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really fun. Again, like on every project, we kind of try and bring something new to the table to challenge ourselves. And that one
Mhm.
was like, let's not do uh, prosthetics on somebody. Let's, if their faces are exploding, like let's take away, because we've all seen like Skeletor and like shit like that, where like they've got this big piece on to make it look like they're a skeleton. It was like,
Right.
no, let's take meat away. So
Right.
we like casted those kids' heads and faces, and then he chipped away at their faces and built these skeletons underneath. And then so we had these practical heads, but then we like 3D scanned them to digitally add them in. So that was like our big challenge on that one, was like, how can we meld practical and VFX in a way to kind of show you something really weird to the point that you don't even know what you're looking at.
Right. And it was done really well. But like with the Ballad of Squirt Reynolds, that was different because that's mostly practical effects, right?
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Because that was fun too. I enjoyed that one. That was pretty funny.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was so the first thing I did was When Susser Stirs, which was kind of a bit of a tongue in cheek but pretty dark body horror story.
Right.
And you know, I had no idea how that was going to do, and it did really, really well on the festival circuit. And so I kind of panicked of like, oh God, what do I do next? Like, I think I just peaked with my first short. Uh, I was like, should I do a body horror thing again? That's what people are going to expect. And the only idea that I had that I was really excited about was Squirt Reynolds, and that really just started with the one kill in it, the duck call kill, where he pulls a girl's voice box out and
Yep.
then uses it to lure another girl to her with her voice.
Yeah.
I just thought that'd be a funny, like, fantastical kill. I mean, I love slasher movies, but
Yeah.
I'd say my favorite franchise, even though it doesn't always have the best entries, is Nightmare on Elm Street, because
Yep.
the dream aspect means every kill is wildly different and is
Yep.
a set piece. And I get so annoyed when I watch a slasher movie and there's like 5, machetes to the gut or throat slits or whatever. Like, I want the kills to be weird and cool and memorable.
Right.
So it all started with that, and then we just kind of built a story around that, kind of inspired by like Wet Hot American Summer, like just trying to do like something like absurdist comedy in the framework of like a camp slasher.
That explains the crop top on the killer.
Yeah.
100%. Now I get it. Mark?
Yes. So, Jim, do you
Yeah.
have any constructive criticism for Anthony? Ooh.
I don't. The three things that, and I hate to say just three things. I've enjoyed all three of your pieces that I've seen. I don't have any constructive criticism. Do you, Mark?
We can't just kiss ass all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not kissing ass, Mark. I really don't.
So the one thing that I like watching, like I said, I really enjoyed Frogman. I thought some of the sound mixing was a little like I struggled to hear some of the. No, could be because I'm an old man, but some of the sound mixing was I thought needed a little bit of work. But that's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's totally fair. That was I rewatched Blair Witch a lot before Frogman, and something that I admire about it is the fact that the sound is imperfect, and like when a character is like 50 feet ahead of the camera, you can barely hear what they're saying. And I wanted to take that approach. So the first 2 days on set of shooting Frogman, we did not have like a professional sound recordist, and it was like on camera, on board mics, and someone maybe operating a boom just for safety. And I panicked after those first 2 days, and I was like, you know what? Even if we want it to sound like shit later, we can make it sound like shit. Let's get good sound.
right.
And so the reality is we did not get good sound for every day of shooting. And I really regret that, because I thought that was going to work. And then there are scenes where I'm like, okay, what they're saying actually matters. This is not Blair Witch where it's just people screaming in the woods. Like, what they're saying is character development and relational. And it really sucks that you can't hear what they're saying right now. So I appreciate that feedback, and that's definitely something we're going to improve going forward.
I just met the cast Blair Witch this year. I'm
Yes,
Eduardo Sanchez. Very cool. I also met Ruggero Deodato many years ago.
Oh boy!
Director of Cannibal Holocaust.
Man.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be impressed by that, Mark?
Well, it's found footage kind of heritage right there.
He just likes to brag, Anthony. Don't let him talk to you.
I also met Burt Reynolds. Talking about Spurt.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. Jim,
Yes, Mark.
have you ever met Burt Reynolds?
No, I have not.
No.
You
Okay.
missed your chance.
I did, unfortunately, but
Keep
that's okay. I
going.
don't mind. I don't mind. Mark, what else you
Yes.
got?
I think we've grilled Anthony enough, unless you have additional questions.
I do actually.
Oh,
So
there you go. So why are you asking me?
because you get upset if I don't.
Oh, yes.
So you talked about how you were inspired by Lovecraft and you enjoy his stuff. What other? Why horror? Why do you want to make horror films?
Um, there's definitely something deep seated that I don't know if I can fully explain because it's just like at my core. I was watching horror films when I was very, very young, probably too young. And even, even the kids movies I was watching growing up, like Neverending Story and Dark Crystal, I was like
Yeah.
fascinated by the parts of those movies that terrified me.
Right.
Like The Nothing, or is that his name, or The Darkness, or whatever?
It
In
was the
Neverending
Nothing.
Story, yeah, The
Yeah,
Nothing,
the
that
Nothing.
like creepy puppet
Yeah, the
wolf
werewolf.
and oh
Yeah.
my God, what a horrifying image.
So
So,
okay, the wolf is Gamork, who
oh,
served the
okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, okay, that's right. That puppet is an all-timer, like
He
pure
is
nightmare
absolutely.
fuel.
Yeah.
The Gremlins I watched as a kid so much, and like, even though they're fun and like kind of Looney Tunes-esque, like
Mm-hmm.
they're terrifying looking. Like they really are like
Yeah.
they're out of like the scariest nightmare. They're just acting goofy.
Right.
And yeah, my parents noticed what I was like taking interest in and really fed into it instead of going like, oh God, he's gonna end up like a weirdo. They're
Yeah.
like, cool, you like horror? Here's Goosebumps books. Like Um, but as far as like right now, why do I want to keep making horror movies? It's what I love most. The thing that I love most about making movies is trying to make something that doesn't exist in reality. Like
Right.
I want to make a magical frogman, or like Face Explodes, like make like an alternate Earth that's like a little bit different than ours. That's kind of the funnest stuff to me, is to bring something into creation or into reality that doesn't actually exist. And it's just so versatile. You can mash up horror with anything. It can be horror comedy, horror drama, horror romance,
Right.
sci-fi, action. So I can't imagine ever wanting to leave horror, honestly.
I
Amen.
agree.
So, what are some of your favorite horror movies then?
The Fly is my favorite of all time. Um, The Evil Dead, the first one, and
Thank you.
I love the second one, and I would not argue with anyone that prefers the second one. But I saw the first one first,
Yep.
and it made me want to make movies because it made me realize like this was not clearly not a movie made by Hollywood or by a studio. This is clearly friends out in the woods,
Right.
and I was like, just so infinitely that's my comfort movie. I could watch it any day of the week,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's just so cozy. It's such a cozy return for me.
Yep.
Hellraiser is
Of
just
course.
one of the most disgusting movies ever. Like I want to take a shower after it every time.
I must be the only weird person that thought it was a little sexy.
A little
Anyway.
sexy? It's
Yeah, it's a little
definitely
sexy.
sexy.
Yeah, it's definitely a little sexy. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, yeah. Any other movies, like even non-horror, that you would want to talk about or inform the audience about your cinematic tastes?
Non-horror? Okay. Uh, well, I think Titanic is the greatest movie ever made. And, that's by James Cameron, who definitely knows what he's doing and definitely knows horror. But that movie to me is just absolutely timeless. I think like it's aged so well. It's
Mm-hmm.
got as far as a mainstream movie, it's got everything you could ever want in a movie. It's got romance, sex, action. You're maybe learning something. It's historically accurate, and just like as far as like the crazy shit that's happened in reality that we could
Mm-hmm.
talk about, like disasters and wars and all that kind of stuff. A ship sinking is not that fantastical or crazy. But every time I watch that movie, I'm like, holy fuck, this happened. Like, this ship was pointing up towards the sky and people were
Right.
holding on to it, realizing this ship is like, we were sailing on this ship a couple hours ago, and now it's going to be down at the bottom of the fucking ocean. And if we don't do something, we're going to be down there with it too. I mean, it blows me away every time.
I did enjoy the man falling onto the propeller.
Oh yeah, watching it, see that in 3D if you can. It's a whole new.
I hated that movie with a passion. There's a reason though. It's not about the movie at this point though. I have a story because I generally do, right, Mark?
Well,
So-
yeah, but I mean, you don't have a heart, so your heart can't go on, Jim.
That's
but
true.
Anyway, yes.
My ex-wife saw the movie in theaters 4 times, and on her 5th time seeing it, her and her mother decided to sit me down and tell me everything that was going to happen for 3.5 hours. And then I had to go see the movie. That was just too much. And then I had to spend $100 for the double VHS tape that came out. Oh my God.
Well, that's an interesting.
Jim's trauma, because we'll be here all night.
I'm
Don't
sorry
start, Mark.
to bring up your trauma, Jim.
It's okay. I appreciate that other people appreciate it. So there is that.
That's a weird way to go into watching a movie after having the entire thing explained to you. That's not,
Yeah, exactly.
not my ideal process.
Right. Oh my God, this scene is going to make you cry so hard because this is going to happen. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, Bruce Willis was dead at the end of that movie, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Oh
yeah.
God, who doesn't love Die
Great
Hard?
movie.
Yeah, I agree. Mark, what are some of your favorite non-horror movies? We've never had that conversation.
So I mean, I guess we can look at whenever you talk about action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Also by John McTiernan, Predator.
Oh yeah.
I guess it's horror-ish.
It's horror-esque, yes.
It's horror-esque. I do love like a good courtroom drama. So I love like the original Inherit the Wind
Huh.
with Spencer Tracy in it. 12 Angry Men.
Did I ever tell you I
Great
was in that
movie.
play?
Mhm.
Mark,
What?
did I ever tell you I was in that play?
No.
Yeah, I was in 12
What?
Angry Men. I played the bailiff.
How interesting.
You really don't care.
So I mean, there's a lot of I'm trying to think right now. So if we go to action movies, right? Things like RoboCop.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Some of the martial arts stuff with Tony Jaa in it is amazing. Bruce Lee, big fan of Bruce Lee. Shaw Brothers stuff in general. Equilibrium.
I've never seen it.
Equilibrium with Christian Bale in it.
I know, but I never watched it.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's about Demolition Man. That's one that
Love
I recently
Demolition Man.
rediscovered, and I'm like, this is a masterpiece. This is such a cool, weird world.
The restaurant wars are amazing. And I still want to know how you use the seashells.
It's the three.
And Wesley Snipes is just like on another level in that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
He was fantastic. In fact, that whole cast was great. It was. Just it's just so cheesy and ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, as I'm thinking, Jim, how about you tell everyone some of yours?
So a lot of mine are going to be family movies, which is weird, right? I go from one extreme to the other. When I was, I love animated films, and not the newer ones. Like I'm a big fan of one of my favorite. I love Big Hero 6. I loved WALL-E, and not just for the animation, but the story. Like I fully believe that we are headed into that sort of society, and to see it pictured on the screen like that in a family movie was great. I love the family horror like Gremlins. I probably watched a lot of movies that I was too young to watch. Like I think I was 8 or 9 when I first watched Nightmare on Elm Street. And one of my favorite movies still to this day. I love the whole franchise. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, you love the remake the best, though.
Bite me, Mark. I don't hate the character of Freddy in the remake. I hate the story. The story and the acting are terrible. The character of Freddy, Jackie Earle Haley, was not terrible.
But you don't understand him at all. I don't know what they did with his voice.
Because of the new prosthetics, you really couldn't. He couldn't even speak.
I did like that Freddy, and it was a shame that he put so much passion into that, and like it's weird that they tried to do something so vastly like different with
Yep.
Freddy, and yet everything else about that movie is a carbon copy of the first one. Oh, well,
Yep.
the micro naps, those were pretty interesting. That was like the one interesting idea that movie had. Other
Yeah.
than that, the worst thing you could do when it comes to a remake, in my opinion, is remind people of the first one. Like, if you're
Right.
gonna remake a movie, remake it. Do something new. Don't remind
Right.
me how much I like the first one and that you're doing a pale comparison, like copy of it. I just want to go watch the first one now.
Agreed.
You know,
Especially if your effects are even worse. Like the whole Freddy, coming through the wall. Like
Yeah.
that CGI would just look fucking terrible.
exactly.
Yep.
Like,
Like
and then you got something like,
a plastic sheet looks way better.
Yep.
yeah. And there's like, and the Omen remake did that also, where it was like that they used the same script as the original, and like we're gonna do the same kills, but like
Yep.
instead of one spire coming down and stabbing them or a piece of glass, it's gonna be like 50. You know, it's just
Right.
like everything was just like turned up to 11 to like try and make it more intense. It was like it was more effective the first time around, and then you got
Right.
something like Suspiria, like in my opinion, that's how you do a remake
Yep.
because it does its own thing. It doesn't try to like pay homage to the first movie at all. It takes like the great ideas that are in the first movie and then does something completely different with them. Like you could watch
Right.
those movies back to back and you don't feel like you were just told the same story.
Right. Agreed.
The Maniac remake, I also think does a really good job at doing something different, but
So
similar.
good. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
Um,
I even so. This is probably going to sound stupid, but I love the Carrie remake. I know lots of people hate it, but I thought Angela Bettis did a great job.
Mm. I don't really remember it, to be honest.
And it's a lot more truth. It holds a lot more true to the book than it does the original movie. So I thought it was done really well. I even liked the Rage Carrie too, because I loved it when Sue Snow got the poker to the head. I thought it was fantastic.
The remake, was that Chloe Grace Moretz?
That
Carrie?
was the second remake.
That was the second remake. Okay.
That was the second remake. Was Chloe Grace Moretz. But Angela Bettis was in the made-for-TV version that came out, which was a little bit different.
I don't know if I ever saw that. I'll have to check that out.
Let me verify my sources. Mark, continue while I look this up real quick.
Okay, comedy, comedy's really weird for me. I think it's probably more subjective than horror or any other genre. Love Borat. Borat was fantastic. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right.
With John Candy.
Yep.
Moving away from that, Dredd. How could I have forgotten about Dredd? The Judge
Dredd. Oh, Judge Dredd. Okay.
Yeah. Godzilla -1. Okay, it's a horror movie, but still, it's
good.
Not considered.
Did y'all see that in black and white?
I did not yet.
No, not yet.
It's you see it in black and white. It's truly a horror movie. It is like genuinely scary. Because I think I don't know. It feels like they did more to it than just turning it black and white. It feels older to me, and like with the time period it takes place in, and the score being such a throwback, like it just feels like a better movie.
So I asked Mark this when I watched it. When did Godzilla become a transformer? Because like when he's gearing up to use his atomic breath or whatever you want to call it, like the scales start moving on his back, and they sound like they're pieces of metal. It sounds like a robot.
Yes, but Jim, you've never watched many Godzilla movies, have you?
No,
You've been doing that for decades.
I'm not saying I understand that, but when did he become a transformer is the question mark, and you haven't been able to answer that.
Okay, so the correct answer, Jim, is he does not become a transformer.
Well, Mechagodzilla is kind of a transformer.
Kinda, yeah, that's true. My favorite was always Son of Godzilla because the little Godzilla is so cute.
He is so cute. I got a figure of him I'm looking at right now. He warms my heart. Yeah.
I have two figures that make me happy, and that's this little guy that I just got.
Oh, nice.
And then this guy. I don't know if you can see him. I might have to pull him down.
Face hugger?
This was no, not the face hugger. It's what's behind the face hugger. This guy.
Oh God, I would not be anywhere near that.
This makes me so happy. You have no idea.
That scares the shit out of me.
That is one of my favorite things from a horror movie ever.
Anthony, it looks like there's a clown.
Buddy.
Nope.
Oh,
Look
that
at
is so
him.
cute. I love
He's
that.
so cute.
Oh my god, he's adorable.
Oh my god.
No,
Why the hell have they
that's
not done him in these new movies yet? Like
right.
you see Baby Yoda or Grogu, whatever his name is, like,
Yeah.
that's literally all Disney's making money off Star Wars wise at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Give us Baby Godzilla, you cowards.
Right. Yeah. Is that a Mothman picture behind you?
Oh yeah, this one is.
What's the other
This
one?
actually, that's the Kentucky Goblins.
Ah.
And then over there's the Flatwoods Monster. These are all done by the guy that did the Frogman poster.
Oh wow. He
Yeah,
did a
talented dude,
phenomenal job with Frogman, by the way. That poster is amazing.
right?
Is that for sale
He's
anywhere?
so
Because I need
talented.
one.
It is, yeah. RottingPress.com. You can get the Frogman poster.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I am doing that. I will be ordering one this week. Mark, you?
Oh, thank you.
Of course, I'll be ordering 3.
You
Jim?
liar.
Yeah.
You're so he's so cheap. He's not going to order any. The only way he's going to get it is if somebody buys it for him.
Jim can take a photocopy and send it.
See?
It makes Frogman posters make a great Christmas gift.
They are great. They are great. I cannot wait. Mark, your turn. What else you got?
What, for just movies in general?
Yeah, sure.
Arrival, I thought was great.
Ew.
Yeah.
Why didn't you like Arrival?
Ew.
Yeah, it was just I don't know, it was too long, honestly. I feel like they forced a lot of the science and I just did not enjoy it at all.
They forced a lot of the science. Is that your scientific theory?
No, it is my uneducated theory, Mark. My uneducated theory.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Love that movie.
Oh, so good.
The Hot Dog Fingers universe was my favorite ever.
Okay, let me show you guys something. So I got a 3D projector recently, which, by the way,
Okay.
like even if you think you hate watching movies in 3D, if you it's a different technology for these 3D projectors and TVs at home, and it is
Right.
infinitely better than anything you'll see in a theater. This is my holy trinity of CGI exploitation movies.
Gods of Egypt, okay.
Gods of Egypt, the greatest video game movie ever made for a video game that
Mhm.
doesn't exist. Alita Battle Angel,
Yep.
and Mortal Engines, which is like Fury Road meets Lord of the Rings or something. I don't know how you'd explain this movie. It's insane. There is a steampunk T-800.
Yep. It was beautiful. I watched that in theaters with my partner, and we both thought visually that was a stunning movie. I can only imagine watching it in 3D. I haven't been able to see 3D since Michael Jackson was in the ball at Epcot, though.
Oh, that was
I
a
had
long
an eye
time ago.
Yeah, I know. I had an eye surgery, so I can't see 3D
I
anymore.
thought Michael Jackson did something to your eye.
Oh God! Are
Um,
you sure you're not drinking, Mark?
I'm not. The Martian,
Yeah, I like that one.
and that would probably look great in 3D as well.
Yeah.
The Perfection. Okay, I'm just
That
going
was a-
through like a list.
That was
That's
a great movie. What about House? How do you feel about House? And I'm not talking about House Sue, Mark.
Wow.
The one with William Catt, George Wendt.
Me?
Well,
Right.
either one of you guys.
Oh,
Great
House is
poster.
It is.
great, but you can really tell that they took 2 different scripts and melded
Yes.
it together, because tonally it's all over the place.
It is. It absolutely is. But they did the same thing with Barbarian. It just didn't work as well. It was awful.
Well, yeah, that one is very much a tale of 2 halves.
Are you a fan of Barbarian, Anthony?
I liked it. I'm sad I saw it after the hype had already got into it. I try to see anything I'm interested in. I try to see as soon as humanly possible before people's opinions affect the way I watch it. But I still really liked it. I think the best parts of it were kind of in the middle, and it fizzled out a little bit. But I mean, it was trying something, and I give it respect for that for sure.
Yeah, I just wish it was 2 separate movies. I think I would have liked it more. That when it does that hard 90 degrees and changes tone, It lost it for me, unfortunately.
Well, it is two separate stories put together.
Yes,
It's
I
tough.
know.
I mean,
know.
when movies do that successfully, it's like it's such a fun thing.
It is.
Like From Dusk Till Dawn, and I mean Predator even. Predator is just like a bro movie in the jungle until he finally shows up, and that's like a solid 50 minutes in, I feel like.
I honestly hated From Dusk Till Dawn when I saw it in theaters because I went in expecting a horror movie and got a horror comedy, so I was really disappointed. And then I watched it a year later, and I love it. I think it's great.
It's half a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Those are honestly,
that's true.
those are some of my favorite movies. The movies you like, you almost have to see once to digest, and then a second time to really appreciate. Under the Skin was one like that for me.
I
Where
haven't
like I
seen that
saw
one.
it the first time, and I was just like, this is boring. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know. It just did not work for me at all the first time. And then I started talking about it with people, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Okay, so
my favorite horror movie.
I have a thing for bizarre horror movies. Have either of you seen Deep Dark?
I don't think so.
So that's a movie about a man who moves into an apartment. He's an artist, and he finds a talking hole in the wall. And it starts. They fall in love, and it starts creating art for him. And it just goes everywhere you think it's going to go. It's great.
Ooh, oh shit! I got to see that because I got a short about a guy that has a hole in the wall, but I think it probably cuts right to where that movie slowly builds up to.
Yeah, it does take a while to get to that point, I'm sure. But it is. I like it. I think it's 2015 or something like that. It's on Tubi if you want to watch it.
Deep Dark. All right.
Yes.
How about the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Are we talking about the animated one or the one with Captain Lou Albano?
Hell no, I'm not talking about the animated one.
John Leguizamo and Captain Lou Albano were perfect in that movie. I loved them.
Dude, John Leguizamo is one of my favorite actors ever. And regardless of what you think of the movies, his performance in that and then Spawn as the Violator, incredible. That guy's dedicated.
He goes I've been a big fan of his since his stand-up. And I freaking loved him in his stand-up in the late 80s, early 90s. And just his acting career, he does everything, and he's always amazing.
Yeah.
I've never not enjoyed him on screen.
We have a feature script of Squirt Reynolds written, and we wrote a role that could easily be whoever, but we wrote it for John Leguizamo because
Did you really?
He is one of my dream actors to work with.
That's awesome.
The Menu, I think, was the last thing I saw him in.
Oh yeah,
another good movie.
That was a fun movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm not typically a fan of Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh, she was great.
She was fantastic, but I did not like The Witch at all. I thought it was boring and drawn out. But I loved her in that movie. No, I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying I haven't seen a whole lot that I've enjoyed her in up until The Menu.
I like The Witch.
She's definitely no Jennifer Carpenter. I have some really strong feelings about Jennifer Carpenter and Sherry Moon Zombie.
Jim despises them with a passion.
I do. I don't like seeing them on screen. They bother me.
Mm.
Do you have any actors that just bother you, Anthony? I mean, I guess you can't really say that, right? Because you might have to work with them someday.
Yeah, I probably should.
Right?
But, I mean, yes. The answer is yes, I do have some of those actors, and I'll leave them nameless, right?
Yeah, we won't ask you to name anybody because we don't want to compromise your job. So, other than Frogman 2, what else is next for you, Anthony?
I'm showing a horror short in a couple weeks here about a girl who gets her eyeballs gouged out.
Okay.
It's a fun one, I think. Not for her.
Right. Clearly.
And
so you're channeling Giallo. It's Giallo or it's Giallo, right? Mark,
Giallo,
does the eye stuff?
Well, it's very low to Fulci.
Fulci, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. It's gonna be like basically like one of her eyes gets gouged out but still connected, and so we do a whole lot of POV stuff of like
that's gotta be freaky.
To, like operate it almost like Olga from Dark Crystal. Besides that, I've got a few other feature scripts ready to go that I'm trying to find the funding for.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, we've got plans like within like more plans within the Frogman universe, but you know, I'd like to kind of switch off and do something outside of that when I can too.
So if you're not doing cryptid horror, what is your next favorite genre? Is it just body horror or
Um, well, I mean, I feel like I'm probably working body horror into everything.
okay?
I've got something that's kind of like Pet Cemetery meets Stand By Me. Um,
Hmm.
that deal like these kids find a hole in the ground and start throwing things into it, and weird things come out, and so they're like body horror
That's
gets into it, but it's more like
Oh, nice.
adolescent horror.
that's
Um,
Oh,
that
it's
sounds
some.
like. Have you seen The Pit, the
Yeah,
1980 movie?
I was
Pit.
just gonna say
I don't
Yeah.
think I have
that's
seen that.
Yeah, it's about a boy who finds a hole in the forest
yep,
and
and
start, and he finds that there's little creatures in there, and he starts
and
feeding them meat.
he starts feeding the
Oh
people.
shit!
And
I'll
then
have to
they,
But
watch
then
that.
I don't want to ruin the ending of it though.
it's not even that kid is super weird in that movie. Like the character,
He really is.
like
He
there's
really
a scene with the babysitter. It's just like, oh, what?
is.
Okay, these are going on my watch list. The Pit, and then what was it? From Dark, or what was the other
Oh,
horror
Deep
one?
Dark.
Deep Dark.
Deep
Okay.
Dark. Yep,
Yes.
from 20. I think you have to put in the year because there's a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's 2015 if you look it up on IMDb.
So,
Okay.
Anthony, it sounds like you like movies with holes in them.
Yeah, I do like me a hole. Yeah.
Mark, that was some low hanging fruit.
That's what he said.
The juvenile humor I have to put up with from this 50-year-old man.
Yeah. Well, we're catching up to.
It's the ultimate unknown. You know, you see a hole and you're like, what's in
What's
there?
done?
Or
Yep.
what's on the other side of it? You know, it's a portal.
Yep. It could be. You never know. Hence the gate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of rough. Anyway,
Event Horizon.
that wasn't a hole. Well, I mean, I guess technically it was a black hole, yeah.
Yes, thank you,
So
Jim.
technically, yeah, but I
Space
mean,
hole.
I don't know that a hole in space has the same impact a hole in the ground does, because a hole in the ground
What,
is
what, are,
tangible.
what are you, a holistic expert on this, Jim?
Yes, I'm a holistic
If
expert.
anybody needs to figure out whether something's a hole or not, please reach out to Jim.
Reach out to
Yeah.
Jim, your
Yeah, I'll
resident
give you-
holeologist.
That's right, my philologist. So what would be your dream script? Like what is the movie that you haven't made that you want to make?
If money wasn't the object,
Yes.
there's this story, this novel called Biomelt, which is actually by the same author, Carlton Mellick, that wrote Face Explodes.
Okay.
And it takes place in this like fucked up world where like basically because prisons were overpopulated, they created this process of melting people down and then like bringing them back as like one person.
Oh.
And then it got out into the public where they're like, hey, wait, like, you know, I suck at math, but I'm really good at this thing, you know, or like whatever, like let's melt together and just be a better person. So it becomes something that everyone does to the point where if like you hit 18 years old and you haven't melted with somebody, you're a weirdo for still just being like the person you were born. And so like that's kind of the setup for the world, and then from there there's this crazy story that takes place in like what they call a bonding motel, which is like almost like the kind of motel you would meet at to just have like a one night stand or a prostitute or something, but you meet up
Right.
at these hotels to bond together, to like melt
Okay.
together. And I would want to do it as a musical. I think it would be super fun. It's been a hot minute since we've had, you know, like a Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
And I think it'd be super fun to have like a duet of like two people that are going to melt together, and then they go in the machine and it comes out and they're doing a solo about the new person they are.
It
So-
almost gives me vibes of Society.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. Like Brian Usna should produce a
Yeah.
movie. Absolutely.
You talk about two people melting, and I immediately start thinking of the movie Doppelganger with Drew Barrymore, where she splits in half, and I picture her singing through the whole thing.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
It's
Oh, man.
it's an old
These movie.
yeah, it's a 90s movie where she keeps seeing this other version of herself, and then it just gets all kinds of really bizarre, and then at one point she splits in half in the middle of a living
Whoa. Okay. Man, you guys filled my watch list today.
room.
Oh, the other one I was thinking of, again, Lovecraft From Beyond.
Oh yeah, love that.
Whenever they merge together at the end. Jim
Yep.
hasn't seen it.
I have not. Typical.
It's not a kid's
Typical
movie.
me. And now I won't watch it just because Mark wants me to.
I don't care.
The last movie I trusted him on, Anthony, was he showed me my first Giallo movie, and it was so stupid.
Which movie?
So incredibly stupid. It was The New York Strangler.
No.
Right?
New York.
New York Ripper. New York Ripper.
Oh, I love the New York Ripper. Isn't that
Oh
the
my
one where
God, it was-
he does the Donald Duck voice?
Yep.
Yes,
I
that's the
love
one.
that movie.
So does he. He did turn me on to The Last Shark, which is probably one of my favorite shark movies now.
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's an Italian knockoff.
It's so bad. It's
There
so
was
bad in all the
multiple
best ways.
Italian knockoff.
That's not the one that was released also as Cruel Jaws, is it?
Yes.
Oh,
Isn't it, Mark?
Oh no, they're separate ones, I believe.
Oh, are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
The Last Shark was one that was sued by Warner Brothers and banned from the U.S. because they say they stole too much of Jaws from it.
Okay.
It's an Italian movie. What do you think?
Oh no, that is not the same one, because that one takes place in Florida. Peter Benchley wrote Cruel Jaws. Huh.
No. I doubt it. They probably just stole his work, so they probably just.
He's credited on the poster, and he's credited on IMDb
What?
for Cruel Jaws, not The Last Shark. Mark.
No, I know.
Luck.
No, I couldn't believe that. Who wrote Cruel Jaws?
It's going to be Peter Benchley, Robert Fiennes, and others. That's what it says.
Okay. Well.
Oh, Peter Benchley wrote the novel. Yes, you're right. They just ripped off his novel.
Right. But
Yeah,
they put it on the poster, right?
But I'll tell you how impressed I was with The Last Shark. We watched it, and then I was at Target, and I saw a piñata of a shark, and I said, I found him, because at one point it just looks like a cardboard shark doing this in the water. It's fucking great. I love that movie.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
It's so terrible, and it's in the best way possible. Mark?
Good.
Next?
Will we move on to what we've watched?
Sure. So, Anthony, we have this little segment where we talk about just what we've watched in general, games we've played, books we've read, any of that.
Okay.
So,
would you guys
anything-
mind if I ran to the bathroom super quick?
yeah,
Or
no
we
problem.
That? Okay.
Yeah,
right
go
there.
ahead.
Okay, I'm going to run too.
Yep. I will be the only one on the live stream for a little bit.
Just talk to yourself.
Yeah. Well, I have Veronica. We have Veronica in the audience. We can talk to her.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Veronica. I'm sitting here all by my lonesome. Thank you for hanging out. We appreciate it. Do you have any questions for Anthony? He is the director of Frogman. And I think writer too. Okay, I can do that. I can't wait to read Daniel Volpe, Veronica. So we have somebody watching us in our audience, by the way, Anthony, and she wants to know, what is your favorite creature feature book?
Creature feature book?
Yes. So Veronica is my splatterpunk friend, and she loves everything vile. Like, she reads extreme horror books. So she wants to know what your favorite creature feature is.
Gotta look over my shelf. Huh. That's a good question. Well, maybe it would count as a creature feature. There's a book called The Troop. Which
I love that. We both loved that book.
Yeah, incredible. I want to see that movie so bad.
If you have, well, there's actually a TV show that was based on the book.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of adjacent. It talks about the life of one of the cops that's mentioned in the books, and where he's investigating what happened after. I'll get you the name of it. I'll message you on Instagram and give you the name of it as soon as I find it. I forget the name of it.
Awesome.
So that was exciting, but they are supposed to be making a movie out of that. If you like that kind of horror, you should check out a book called Writhe by Erica Summers.
Okay.
It's freaking amazing, and it's just as disgusting.
Right. Okay. Recently I read something called Whale Fall, which I guess is kind of a creature feature.
Was
Like
that good?
it was pretty cool. The structure of it is really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, majority of the book, dude's stuck in a whale, trying to get out. So kind of a creature feature, a little bit like
So it's
Pinocchio and Monstro.
I was gonna say it's essentially Jonah's story, right? He's
Yeah.
in a fish for 40 days or whatever it was. Mark, what about you? What's your favorite creature feature book?
The Relic.
Okay, I can get behind that. I hate the movie now that I read the book though.
No, I dig the movie too.
I'm kidding. I still like the movie, but so I don't. Have you read The Relic, Anthony?
I haven't, no.
So they wrote out in the movie. They write out the main character from the book.
Really,
The detective.
Tom Sizemore is not in the book, or is
He
that who
is,
it
but
is?
Tom Sizemore's in the book, but he's a bit part. He's not the main detective.
Weird.
Well,
Okay.
he kind of shares it.
Yeah, I mean he sort of does, and he becomes more prevalent though in the next sequence of books. But
Yeah,
in that book he wasn't. He was just introduced, so he wasn't that
And
prevalent.
I recommend that whole series of.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think there's probably like 25 of them right now.
Yeah, and there's
And
2
they're
offshoots now.
Oh
They're
my
super,
gosh.
they're super well written, really interesting. Usually have a horror aspect in there.
There's 25 books in the Relic universe.
So there is
It's the Pendergast.
it's called the Pendergast series by Preston and Child, right?
Wow.
Yeah, Preston and Child. And it's different cases that he investigates, and the Relic was the first.
Okay.
And he's kind of like the Pendergast. He's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Who's rich and very, sophisticated, but he can also, fight when he needs to. So.
And he's very enigmatic, right? He's very mysterious to
Yep.
the people that don't know him.
Oh, another one I read recently. Again, the by Carlton Mellick, who wrote Face Explodes. It's called Big Meat, and it's a kaiju story where like the book starts with like this kaiju has just been decimating the U.S. and they finally take him down in Portland, Oregon. And so like now the whole book is about the cleanup crew. Months later, like the whole city's on quarantine because there's all these gases coming out of the thing and it's like toxic and so like they're like Portland is just like ruined because of it. Like there's not enough supplies for people that are trying to live there. You can't leave. And so they're just cleaning this thing up. And the book is about like a team that goes into the guts. They're like the stomach cleanup crew, and
Right.
they end up having to like find their way out because like the way they got in gets blocked off, and there's like junkies living in this kaiju corpse, like getting
Oh.
high off some weird thing that grows inside of it. Incredible book.
That sounds great. Veronica recommends The Pope Lick Massacre by Eric Butler. She said it's a fun creature feature about a goat man who mimics.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard of that book, but the Popelic monster, which I assume that must be what it's based on, is like one of my favorite cryptids and definitely
Oh,
one
there
I
you go.
want to play with in a movie sometime. So I'll read that for sure.
There you go. That's awesome. Anything that you've watched, or are you a gamer?
I am, yeah. It's hard to find the time like I used to, but
Right.
the winter is when I get a good amount of gaming in. And this winter, I finally played The Last of Us Part 2, which was incredible. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Resident Evil: The Village, and right now I'm still trying to get through the new God of War, Ragnarok.
So is it more action adventure than games that you play?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of like I used to play online when I was in high school and stuff, and now I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
to like keep up with it, and I definitely don't. I can't justify like paying for the subscription to like keep the online thing. So it's mostly like single player stuff for me now.
Yeah.
I think The Last of Us Part 2 is the best narrative game I've ever played. I've
Unbelievable.
never been so conflicted about like the final act in that.
Oh, it's
I
incredible.
I just bought a working ColecoVision with the Smurfs because that was my favorite game as a kid.
Nice.
That is
Is that like The Last of Us at all, Jim?
Oh yeah, totally. The narrative's almost exactly the same. That was the inspiration. Did you not know that?
I'm not the Smurf expert.
That's the Sega Genesis for me right now. I got my Sega Genesis and Earthworm Jim 2.
Oh, I love Earthworm Jim. I used to
Yeah,
love that game. That and Gex.
Gex. Yeah,
Is that right, Earthworm?
What?
Is that right, Earthworm?
Yes, Mark, it is. I got the joke. Thank you.
Eventually.
No,
Earthworms aren't that right.
never heard that before. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. In what context?
Dude, I've been a Jim for 48 years. I've heard just about everything. Anyway,
I believe you have.
yes, I have. So, anything else you wanted to talk about, Anthony, that you've experienced recently?
I'm watching Gen V.
What do you think of it?
I love it. I've got one
Do you?
episode to go. I really really like it.
I gave up after 3 episodes. I
Oh,
don't know. It just didn't have the right magic for me like the boys did.
it's very different, which is
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. Is it very much feels like it's the world of the boys, but I mean, like I grew up with like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love
yeah,
that kind of teen, like drama stuff. And that's
right.
very much what this is. It's like that within the boys universe.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's a well done show. It's just not for me.
Do you know it's a great superhero horror movie?
Brightburn.
Yep.
Yep, I
Love
love
that.
that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say though, Elizabeth Banks is pretty much great in everything she does. I freaking love her.
She's awesome.
She was the best part of Totally Killer because I didn't care for that movie, but her role in that movie was fantastic.
I haven't seen that yet.
You're not missing much. I remember the 80s, so the nostalgia just didn't hit for me the way it did for most people. Mark, what did you think of Totally Killer?
Not seen it.
Color me shocked.
Yep.
What about you, Mark? What have you seen lately?
I've been watching the Euros. Jim, have you been watching them?
The Euros? No.
Yeah. No. Football?
You mean soccer.
No, it's football.
It's soccer.
It's football.
Soccer.
So I've been watching that. That started Friday. So that's been taking up a lot of time because there's like 3 games a day. So
Ooh.
pretty cool. I eventually got around to the boys, like
Yeah?
the most recent season.
Did you see season 2? Did you see episode 2?
Yeah, I saw all of them.
There's a lot of penis in episode 2.
That's okay.
It's just
That
it
doesn't
was
bother
just
me.
surprising. No, it's just surprising. I mean, they always go there, but there's a guy that clones himself like 100,000 times, and they're all naked.
Well, I think probably the Gen Z thing is a little bit worse. Doesn't she shrink down?
Mm-hmm.
That
So
goes places.
anyway, yeah, the boys just awesome. Love
Yeah,
all
it
the
is.
actors in it. Love
It is.
the irreverence. I think that's about it.
So
Nothing much. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I watched much this week. I did listen to. Oh, Veronica's yelling at me that it's football. Also, I did watch or read Seven Rabbits by our friend Timothy King, who we went to Spooky with. Mark.
Yep.
It was just released on audiobook, so I've read the book already, but I listened to him narrate it on. I probably ruined that because he goes by TC King as a narrator, but he narrated the book himself, and it was great. I don't think that's a secret. I did listen to one other book this week that I really didn't care for, though. Hang on. What do I got finished? No, that's Hex. It's got to be on Chirp then.
Sure.
Yeah, so I have several books that I bought from there. Like I bought Something Wicked This Way Comes because I love the movie. But the quote-unquote audiobook is just a dramatic reading of the script. So I'm like, if I want to hear this, I'll just watch the movie. But I did start listening to Warlock for Hire, and Jesus, is it boring. It's so bad. I've really been in a slump. So I listened to this extreme horror audiobook called The Dark Side of Hell, and ever since then, nothing's really hitting for me. Nothing. So
maybe
I
you're
have,
into extreme horror now, Jim.
I guess, maybe. I did read Carnivores. It's a physical book by K.L. Allister, who, Mark, you'll remember on our last podcast episode, he was chatting with us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the sequel in that. And then, of course, I'm looking forward to the book where I get to die. I get to die in 2 books this year, Anthony. I'm so excited.
Really?
You have no idea. I'm so excited.
And so, Anthony, if you want to throw us into any of your movies, just our name, if you're going to be killed or brutalized by Frogman, I guess, feel free.
Y'all are down to be cannon fodder.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Good to know.
One of my friends, Carlos, even made Mark my voice of reason because apparently I die from something stupid in his book.
So art reflects life.
Ha, ha, ha. If you say so, Mark, if you say so.
I am the voice of reason.
You are not. You are absolutely not. What else you got, Mark? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Yeah? So,
Nothing
Anthony,
exciting.
thank you for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. You were great. Is there anything that you want to pop, maybe your social accounts or anything like that, before we...
Yeah, if you want to keep up with like what we're up to, cousins_Anthony at Instagram, and then at Frogman Movie on Instagram.
I didn't know there was a Frogman account. I found yours because I looked for you specifically.
Yeah. It's also me, so it's just...
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
I just
And for our
replay.
listeners, sorry. And for our listeners, Screenbox, I think you can do like a 7-day free trial. So
You can.
you got no reason not to watch it.
Yeah,
Right? Absolutely.
and if you want to see it in a whole new way, I have a secret stash of VHS tapes that I'm selling with T-shirts right now. So just
Really?
message me on Instagram, yeah.
I will be messaging you on Instagram then. I will be doing that.
Cool.
I can't wait.
It's the way to watch it, I think.
Yeah, I have to buy a VHS player, but I've just started collecting physical media again, so I'm down for that 100%.
Hell yeah.
I'm totally down. Mark,
Yes.
you got a VHS player?
No.
Cheapskate?
No.
I really expected you to have a Betamax. You know what a Betamax?
I never had Betamax. I always had VHS.
You're disappointing me, Mark. Anyway, Anthony, thank you again.